My grandson called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and said, "Grandma, whatever you do, don't wear your red coat today." I was surprised. Why? His voice trembled as he answered, "You'll understand soon." At 9 o'clock in the morning, I headed out to the stop to catch the county bus. But the moment I reached the spot, I froze. What I saw there sent a shockwave through me. The phone rang precisely at 5 o'clock a.m. I know the time exactly because I was already awake. I was sitting in my old rocking chair by the window in the dark, listening to the wood frame house creak, the furnace cooling, and the night slowly giving way to a gray dawn. At 63, sleep doesn't come all at once. It falls in pieces, like bread broken by hand instead of being sliced. The screen lit up in the dim light. Jelani. My heart plummeted. My grandson doesn't call at this hour, ever. I held the receiver to my ear. "What happened, baby?" His voice was shaky. "Grandma, please, just listen to me, okay?" I felt an immediate clenching in my gut. Not panic, but something worse. That feeling when you know something serious is happening, but you don't have the words yet. "Talk to me," I said softly. "I'm listening." "Don't wear the red coat today, please. Wear anything else, just not that one. Promise me." I automatically glanced at the coat rack by the door. Hanging there was my favorite bright red quilted coat, the one I had bought 3 years ago downtown in Baltimore. It was expensive, more than a senior citizen should spend, I told myself, but it was visible on the highway, visible on the back roads. In the dark winter, at least it felt safe. "Jelani, what are you talking about?" I asked. "Since when is a coat dangerous?" "Just promise me," he interrupted. "Please, Grandma, don't ask. Not today. Promise me." "Jelani, you're scaring me. Where are you? Are you all right?" A short pause. I heard a noise through the phone. It wasn't the house, the kitchen, or the television. It sounded like water nearby, a heavy, echoing sound. "I can't explain. You'll understand. Soon. Just don't wear the red coat. Okay?" His voice broke. "I love you." The line cut off. I sat for a while longer, the phone against my ear, and then slowly lowered my hand and looked at that bright red spot by the door again. The house felt different, as if something had been twisted half a turn. Outside, the first crows started calling. A passing pickup truck rumbled by. The night gloom was slowly being diluted by gray. I didn't wear the red coat. I pulled out my old brown denim jacket, the one I usually wear when I go out to the yard or the tool shed. The elbows are worn, the zipper catches, but it's familiar. I did exactly what Jelani had said. We, as grandmothers, have this stubborn, instinctual feeling. If a child or grandchild asks something like that, it's not made up. By 9 o'clock, I was out. I walked the familiar dirt path from the house to the state highway. For 5 years, the intercity coach, which runs from our rural community to the county seat, has stopped there at the bend. Tuesdays and Fridays are my routine, the bus at 9:15 a.m. to the farmer's market, the pharmacy, the community clinic, home by dark. I haven't kept a second car since my husband passed. I don't need one. My world is scheduled like clockwork. But that day, the bus wasn't there. From a distance, I saw the flashing lights. 4 cars, red and blue strobes tore at the pale morning. The wind flapped the yellow tape stretched across our shelter at the bus stop, 3 walls of old corrugated iron where we usually sat, discussing the price of sweet potatoes and our blood pressure. I stopped dead in my tracks. A tall man in a uniform walked quickly toward me. "Miss Zora, you can't go any further." He held up his hand. "Sergeant," I whispered, sighing. "What in the world are you doing out here this early?" "Sergeant Malik Adaro, our county police chief, my high school classmate from over 40 years ago. The same squint, just more wrinkles now." "Zora, there won't be a bus today," he said quietly. "No bus?" I looked at my watch mechanically. "I have the market. I need my medication." "There's been an incident," he said. He stumbled over the words, looking back at the people in white hazmat suits walking across the snow. "What kind of incident?" I asked. My voice was still steady. "A body was found, around 6 o'clock this morning." The world seemed to tilt slightly. A body? Who? No official ID yet. He looked at me again, no longer as an old friend, but as an investigator. But Zora, she was wearing a red coat, bright red, the spitting image of yours. My legs gave way. He managed to catch my elbow and guided me into the front seat of his police cruiser. From inside, I could see the tape, the people, a white bag by the shelter, right where I always stand, where I should have been standing today. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Wait," I said. "Malik, Jelani called me at 5 a.m. He told me not to wear the red coat. He said that exactly." Malik's face changed. In an instant, the neighbor's expression became stern, focused. "Repeat that verbatim," he requested. I repeated everything. How the phone lit up, what he asked, how he hung up. Malik pulled out a small notepad and started writing. "Where is Jelani right now?" he asked. "I don't know. He didn't say. He should be at my son Akono's place in the city, living with him and his wife, Naima. He's going to community college there." And then something pricked me in the chest. Was I sure? When was the last time I saw him? In the same professional tone, Malik continued, "Sunday, we had dinner, like always." I paused. Everything seemed normal, but lately at the dinner table, things had been tense. My son, Akono, had been saying, "Mom, you can't handle things alone. Let's move you to the city. We'll sell the house, buy you a condo closer to us." And Naima would sweetly nod along, unfolding her real estate brochures, showing charts and figures. "It's beneficial. It's sensible. You'll be in the black." I listened and felt it. They weren't talking about me. They were talking about my land, about our home, the one where my late husband Elijah built the walls with his own hands, where Jelani ran barefoot through the grass. "Miss Zora," a woman in a severe blazer approached. Her hair was pulled back, her gaze sharp. "Detective Opal Washington, County Investigation Unit. They told me you have some information." I repeated the story of the phone call. She nodded, asked for Jelani's number and his city address. Like an idiot, I told her everything. They tried to call him right then. Subscriber unavailable. Malik's radio crackled. He turned away to listen. I saw his face darken. "Say that name again," he demanded into the radio. Then he slowly turned back to me. "Zora, the woman has been identified. It's Renata Moreau. She worked at the county records office in the city." He paused. "And they found documents in the pocket of her coat. A deed for your house and land." "What?" I asked very quietly. "An official deed of gift, signed over to Akono and Naima, dated 1 month ago, with your signature. It's already registered." I gripped the car door handle so tightly, my knuckles turned white. "Malik, are you out of your mind?" My voice was muffled, not screamed. "I would never willingly give that away. The house, the garden, everything. Never." "The signature is a very close match," he said cautiously. "The document passed through the county assessment center. Everything is clean on paper." I closed my eyes. Naima's image flashed in my mind. Sunday. She was spreading some papers in front of me right over my greens. "This is insurance, this is the medical card, this is consent form. Sign here and here." I was tired, honestly. I had left my reading glasses inside. "Oh, it's just a formality, Mom." I filled everything else out. Akono was silent next to her, just nodding. I signed. I trusted them. I opened my eyes. They could have gotten a signature sample from some old paper of mine. "Zora." Malik spoke gently but firmly. "We need to sort this out. I'm not accusing you, but we have a body, a woman in a red coat, at your bus stop, a deed for your house in her pocket, and your grandson, who warned you at 5 a.m., is now unreachable. Do you understand how this looks from the outside?" I understood, and it felt colder than the February wind. "What happens next?" I asked. "Next, you come with me to the precinct. You give a proper statement. We'll look for Jelani, and we'll figure out how Renata Moreau got your deed." I was about to get out of the car when I noticed headlights out of the corner of my eye. A dark blue foreign car was parked further down the road, past the line of trees. The engine was running, and exhaust plumed in the cold air. Inside, behind the wheel, was Naima. My daughter-in-law was looking right at us. She wasn't waving or smiling, she was just sitting and watching. Her face was calm, almost empty, and in that calmness was something cold, alien. Then she shifted into drive and quietly pulled away. I watched her go, and suddenly I understood two things very clearly. First, I could easily have been the one under that white bag, and second, someone was going to be extremely unhappy that I was still alive. "Malik," I said quietly, still looking at the empty road, "I think I know who we need to ask about this deed, but you might not like the answer." We drove quickly to the precinct. The building was irritatingly familiar: gray brick, peeling paint, a perpetually cracked window pane by the entrance. I'd only been here a couple of times in my life, a report for a stolen tiller, and when I renewed my hunting license. Walking in as a witness to a murder, I honestly didn't expect that. They led me into a room with pale green walls and a hazy mirror. I sat at a table. Opal Washington sat opposite me, dry, composed, with watchful eyes. They placed a recording device between us. "Miss Zora," she began calmly, "once more, from the moment the phone rang at 5 a.m. I repeated everything, and as I listened to my own words, I suddenly remembered a detail that had previously slipped by. "There was a noise," I said. "Not in a house, no clanking dishes, no TV. It sounded like water, maybe a creek nearby, or a loud pipe, not an apartment." She nodded, making a note. "Your grandson is 19. Has he been in trouble before?" "No," I answered immediately. "He doesn't drink. He doesn't wander. He's studying at the tech school, working part-time at the home improvement store. A good kid." "His relationship with his parents?" I hesitated. Airing family laundry in front of strangers is always hard, but this wasn't about pride anymore. With his father, Akono, it's soft. Akono is gentle, always referring back to his job. He's rarely home. But with Naima, I sighed. She's one of those who likes to decide for everyone. My house has been a thorn in her side for a long time. Sell it all, sign the papers, do the smart thing. Jelani argued with her more than once. He's fiercely protective of the house and the land, and she thinks I'm getting in the way of her life. "So there was a conflict concerning your property," Opal summarized dryly. I clasped my hands in my lap. "Yes, but that's no reason to kill people." A knock came at the door. Malik entered, his face tired. "Zora," he said, "your son is here, and a lawyer." I just smirked. They work fast. "Let him in!" Akono burst into the room, agitated, wearing an expensive coat, his eyes red and rumpled. Behind him, a thin, slick man in a nice suit. "Mom," Akono started immediately. "Are you okay? What did they ask? Don't sign anything." "This is Preston Minton," the man introduced himself. "The attorney. Ms. Zora, I strongly recommend you do not give any statements without legal counsel until the situation is clarified." "Whose lawyer?" I asked calmly. "Mine or everyone's at once?" He smiled professionally, vacantly. "I represent the family's interests." Malik and Opal exchanged a look. Opal turned off the recorder. "Ms. Zora is free to go," she said, "but we will be calling you back. We need to establish how Renata Moreau obtained your deed and where your grandson is." In the hallway, Minton immediately started whispering. Akono fussed. "Let's go home. Mom, don't answer them anymore. They can twist anything you say." I stopped in the middle of the stairs. "Akono," I turned to him, "how did you find out about the deed?" "The one for the house and land." He blinked. "What deed?" "The one where I supposedly gifted everything to you and your Naima a month ago." He went pale. "Mom, I'm hearing this for the first time. Wait." He cut himself off. "Naima did say something about processing papers, about realtors, how it would simplify things. But for it to be—" He fell silent, and I could see the understanding dawning on his face. "You can think about it on the way," I said. "Let's go." He drove me home in his SUV. Minton spent the whole drive talking about how the investigation was considering various possibilities and how I needed to calm my nerves. I listened vaguely, watching the snowdrifts and the familiar tree lines outside the window. Something else was important to me now. Whose interests were so quick to shut me up? As we pulled into the driveway, the answer was sitting right by the porch. Naima's white Lexus, gleaming amidst the dirty snow. "What is she doing here?" Akono gasped, practically running into the house. I followed him. In the kitchen, Naima was standing by my old document cabinet. Cold, neat, in a perfectly fitted coat, with her hair perfectly done, she was rifling through my folders. "What are you doing here?" Akono demanded. She flinched, but quickly composed herself. "Akono, don't shout. I'm looking at papers. We need to help Mom sort this out. It's absolute chaos in here." "Those are my papers," I said quietly, stepping closer. "From my cabinet, which I didn't ask you to open." "Ms. Zora, don't start," she smiled. "We have an emergency. They're trying to pin some ridiculous story on you. I need to quickly find what will protect you. I work in real estate. I understand this." "How did you forge my deed?" I asked directly. The smile slid off. For a second, something hard flashed in her eyes, but she immediately put the mask back on. "Are you insane?" Her voice turned sharp. "How can you say such a thing? All I've done is look out for you, offering sensible options, trying to make your life easier." "Making it easier by kicking me out of my own home?" I asked. "That's a nice way to put it." "This house is falling apart," Naima exploded. "The land is a burden. You can't handle it. We could have sold the lot for good money, bought you a condo in the city, given Akono a head start. But no, stubbornness, principles. We are all prisoners of your emotions." "Answer the question normally," Akono interrupted her coldly. "Did you know about the deed? Did you see it?" "I saw it," she said, lifting her chin. "I was at the records office this morning. I checked. Everything is lawful. The gift deed is processed. The signature is notarized. All the stamps are there. Believe it or not, you signed it yourself. If you don't remember, that's another issue." "How do you know the legality so intimately?" I asked. "Because it's my job, Ms. Zora," she answered dryly. "Unlike you, I read what I sign. And yes, legally, if a document is properly notarized, saying, 'I didn't understand' is not an argument. The court doesn't care." "Get out of my house," I said calmly. "What?" she repeated, as if she hadn't heard me. "Leave the key and get out now." She narrowed her eyes. "This is still my house, by the way. Officially, it's already signed over to Akono and me, even if you weren't aware." "Naima," Akono whispered. "What are you saying?" "I'm telling the truth," she shrugged. "Fine, I'll go. But remember, what is signed cannot usually be undone, and when you need help, it will be too late." She turned, walked past me so close that I could smell her expensive perfume. At the threshold, she turned back, a slight smile on the corner of her lips. "And for future reference, before you accuse me of forgery, remember that everything can be verified. Who really has issues with memory and competence is still an open question." She slammed the door. Akono sank into a chair. "Mom," he said dully, I didn't know. She never showed me anything specific. Just, 'I'll handle everything. I'll sort it out.' I believed her like an idiot." I looked at my grown son, already graying in places, and saw the boy who always hid behind someone else's back. "It's late, but better than never," I said. "This isn't about who is guilty right now. This is about what to do." The phone on the table vibrated. "Unknown number," I answered. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. Meet me at the old mill on Clear Creek at midnight. Come alone. You're being watched." At the bottom, a postscript. "Remember our strawberry summer." I felt a coldness inside, but at the same time, clarity. Strawberry summer. When Jelani was 7, we planted a huge strawberry patch behind the house. The harvest was so plentiful we ate ourselves sick, sitting together with a big metal bowl until both of us felt ill. Since then, it was our joke, our code. Strawberry summer meant it was real. It was serious. I showed the message to Akono. "You're not going," he immediately said. "Mom, that could be anyone. A trap. We'll tell Malik." "The message clearly states, 'alone,'" I said. "And you're being watched. If Jelani is alive and wrote this, he's truly in trouble. If it's not him, all the more reason to find out. I'm going with you, stubborn as I am." "No," I cut him off. "You've gone along with other people's decisions your whole life. You sit this one out. If I'm not back by morning, you go to Malik and tell him everything. But don't you dare interfere now." He looked at me like a child left alone in the dark. "Akono," I said quietly. "I've handled things on my own my whole life. I can do it now, and Jelani, he may have saved my life today." Midnight was still far off. I sat in silence, listening to the wind shuffle outside the wall, a distant dog barking. I called Jelani's number a few times. Subscriber unavailable. Naima's words, Renata's face in the red coat, Malik's gaze, they spun in my head. At 11:30, I put on the brown jacket, grabbed a flashlight and the keys to my old Chevrolet Tracker. It was dark in the yard. The snow was gray and crunchy underfoot. I started the engine and drove onto the road. My headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating bushes, a leaning utility pole, a familiar sign. A couple of miles down the road, foreign taillights flashed in my mirror. A car was following me, not overtaking, not falling behind, keeping a distance as if measured with a ruler, not too close, not too far. I slowed down. It slowed down. I sped up. It did too. This wasn't some nosy neighbor. This is how people who know what they're doing drive. "You're being watched," I remembered Jelani's text. 10 minutes before the turnoff for the mill, I made a decision. To the right, an old logging road we used to take when Elijah went deer hunting disappeared into the woods. I knew every bend, every pothole. I turned off my lights and swerved abruptly onto the dirt track. The tracker slipped in the ruts. Branches scraped the doors. I drove almost blind by memory. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. Behind me, on the highway, the foreign headlights swept past, not yet realizing I was gone. I didn't stop. I burst onto the old exit to the secondary road, only then turning on my headlights and looking around. Empty. The Clear Creek Mill. I approached it from the other side, circumventing the main road. It was already 12:15 a.m. The old 4-story behemoth loomed dark above the river. Black gaps for windows, a sagging staircase, snowdrifts up to my knees. The river roared somewhere below, heavy and wintry. I cut the engine. I got out. The cold air burned my lungs. My flashlight beam slashed across the walls, across the graffiti, across the rusty metal. "Jelani!" I called out quietly. The only answer was the rush of water and the rustle of the wind. I stood before the dark entrance of the old mill, understanding clearly. There was no going back. Inside, the mill smelled of dampness, mice, and old rags. I switched on the flashlight. The beam picked out fragments of brick, rusty metal, broken planks. The silence was so deep that every step echoed, as if someone were repeating my movements nearby. "Jelani!" I called louder. "Answer me, baby!" The reply came not as a voice, but a rustle from above. Then a quiet, "Grandma, I'm here." I climbed the wooden stairs, holding onto the railing. The steps groaned under my feet, but held. On the second floor, in a corner, sat my Jelani on an old overturned crate. Thin, pale, eyes red. He had aged in just a couple of days, looking not 19 but 30. He saw me and jumped up. "Grandma," his voice cracked. "I messed up everything. I'm sorry." I walked over and hugged him as I did when he was a child. "Hush," I said. "You're alive. That's what matters. We'll figure out the rest. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." He was trembling, but he started. 3 months ago, he met Renata Moreau at a coffee shop near the college. Funny, smart, a little older than him, she worked at the county records office. She listened as he talked about our house and land, how worried he was that Naima was pressuring me to sell everything. She said she understood, explaining haltingly that her grandmother had also been tricked and lost her land. She said she could advise him on how to protect my rights. She asked for copies of the documents to review. I thought she was a good person. I'm an idiot. Then he saw her with Naima. Downtown, they sat in a cafe for 2 hours, discussing something serious. When Jelani confronted Renata about it afterward, she just laughed. She said I was a convenient boy. His voice was hoarse. Naima had hired her even before they met, he said, to gain his trust, extract all the information about me, the house, and the papers, and then help execute the scheme. He fell silent, staring at the floor. And then? I asked. Then Renata decided Naima wasn't paying her enough. Jelani pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. She was bragging that she had copies of all the forged papers, the correspondence, the recorded conversations. She said she would bleed Naima dry for years, or if things went sideways, she'd turn everyone in. The paper was a copy of a bank statement. 2 weeks ago, nearly $400,000 had been withdrawn in cash from Naima's account. For the hit, Jelani said dully, or for the person who got rid of Renata, or both. I looked at the numbers, feeling a familiar heaviness under my ribs. That kind of money isn't withdrawn for a simple business deal. But why did she wear my coat? I asked. Jelani rubbed his face with his hand. On Sunday when we were at your place, he said. Renata stopped by. You went to the kitchen. Naima and she were whispering by the entrance. Renata stole your red coat from the hall then. Yesterday morning at 5:30, Renata called me. She was crying. She said she was going to the bus stop near your house wearing your coat to wait for you and tell you everything, give you the proof. But she was being followed. She was scared. If anything happened to her, I was supposed to warn you not to go out in red. Then there was a noise, and the connection was lost. He sniffled. I wasn't fast enough, he whispered. I only managed to call you at 5, that's all. I took a deep breath. She wanted to clear her conscience, I said, but she ran out of time. Jelani reached into his inner pocket. I have a flash drive. He placed the small black rectangle in my palm. Renata gave it to me 2 days before, said it was insurance. It has copies of the deeds, her messages with Naima, recordings of conversations. I opened some of it. There are forged power of attorney documents in your name, deeds where you supposedly sign everything. There's correspondence where they discuss removing obstacles after the paperwork is filed. And there are also... He hesitated. There are letters about our police officer. Which officer? I was immediately wary. Renata wrote that Naima was paying a man from our local department to push through the bogus deeds, turn a blind eye, and clean up the loose ends. She doesn't name the person, only our guy at the department. A chill ran down my spine. There's also a folder, he continued. It's encrypted, and a video that won't open. Renata said, that's the most important part, but I don't have the password. I tried. It's okay. We need to give this to Malik, I said. Let their experts pick it apart. Grandma! Jelani grabbed my hand. It says someone local is bought off. What if it's him? What if we hand it over and the flash drive disappears? I was about to answer, but a door slammed loudly downstairs, then heavy footsteps on the wooden stairs. Not one person, but 2, maybe 3. We simultaneously switched off our flashlights. In the darkness, a faint light spilled into the doorway. A familiar uniform appeared on the threshold. Ms. Zora, a voice said. Don't be afraid. This is Lieutenant Kendall Jenkins. Sergeant Adero asked us to check the old mill. Your son reported you missing. We're looking for you. His eyes darted around. His mouth smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. Stop right there, I said. Don't come any closer. He took a couple of slow steps forward. Everything's fine. softly. "We're just checking in. We were told you might have come here. Your safety is our priority." Behind him, 2 shadows flickered. I only needed the silhouette to know they weren't your average patrolman. And then Naima stepped out from behind him, without her sleek fur coat and perfect hairdo. Her hair was pulled back, her face bare, wearing a dark jacket and boots, completely different, real. "Hello, Ms. Zora," she said calmly. "I asked you not to cause a scene, but you never know how to do things simply." Jelani stepped between us. "Get away from her," he said. "Don't touch her, Jelani." Naima shook her head. "You let us all down, but I kept hoping until the last moment that you wouldn't wade into the mud deeper than necessary." "You killed Renata," he gasped. "Oh," she sighed, as if at a child's foolishness. "I didn't kill anyone. I'm afraid of blood, actually. That's what people who get paid for it are for." She looked at me. But Renata genuinely made a mistake. She confused who was in charge here. Her voice became businesslike. "Let's dispense with the theatrics. Jelani has something that belongs to me, the flash drive, the documents. You quietly hand everything over now. We sign one clear agreement, and you live out your life in the house, like a decent human being. Or you continue playing detective. And then—" She didn't finish, but everything was clear. "And then?" I asked. "Then you're involved in a car accident tonight," Jenkins said calmly. "Slippery road, age, no court would be surprised. And the house and land are already not yours, legally." He spoke matter-of-factly, as if reading a protocol. Naima smiled slightly. "Think about it. You're alone. We are not. The police aren't officially here, except for us. Time, snow, the river nearby. No one would be surprised." I felt Jelani's palm grip mine even harder, and suddenly, everything inside me became very level. "You've made one miscalculation," I said, "and what might that be?" Naima narrowed her eyes. "You think I'm an old fool." I lifted my phone. The screen was glowing, a red dot indicating recording. "I turned it on as soon as you came up," I added. "Everything you've just said is no longer just between us. It's on a cloud backup." Naima flinched. Jenkins took a step forward, his hand sliding smoothly toward his holster. And then the door to the floor burst open from a violent kick. "Hands up, everyone!" roared a familiar voice. Malika Darrow, wearing a ballistic vest, tumbled into the hall. Behind him, 2 men in black with tactical gear. More people followed. Their guns were lowered, but ready. "Jenkins, don't even think about it," Malik said. "Gun on the floor." The lieutenant froze. Then he slowly extended his arm sideways and dropped the weapon. "Sergeant Adaro, this is a misunderstanding," he quickly stammered. "I came out here on your verbal order. I didn't give you any such orders." Malik cut him off. "And yes, we heard everything." He held up his phone. "Ms. Zora is a smart woman. 10 minutes ago, she sent me a voice message. Where she was going, who she was meeting, and what to listen for. We listened. From the threats of the accident onwards, it's all recorded." Naima's face seemed to contort. "You have no right to do this," she began, but one of the tactical officers was already carefully twisting her arms and snapping on handcuffs. "This is an illegal detention," she shrieked. "I'm calling my attorneys." "You can call them from county jail," Malik answered calmly. "Try explaining to them why your police buddy was planning the murder of a witness and why your friend had a forged deed to that very witness's house in her pocket." Jenkins mumbled something about not knowing, that he was just providing security. But he was already being led away. Jelani was shaking. I sat back down on the crate because my legs felt like jelly too. Malik came over and sat beside me, human to human, not official to citizen. "Zora, you're true to form." He smiled wearily. "You could have just told me everything normally." "I did tell you," I reminded him, in the voice message from the parking lot. "I said if I went silent for 30 minutes, drive out here with a team." "You did. He nodded. I appreciate that. Though you took a terrifying risk. I placed the flash drive in his palm. Everything Renata collected is here, I said. But Jelani can't open part of it. It's encrypted. We'll handle it, Malik said seriously. Our IT folks will dig into it. If what you're saying is true, this isn't just one bogus deed. This is a big, dirty conspiracy. He held my gaze for a second. And remember, Zora, he added quietly, we got them beautifully tonight. But this isn't over yet. People like Naima have long reach, good lawyers, and a habit of crawling out of any hole. We left the mill just before dawn. The sky was turning purple, the river roared, and flashing lights cut through the darkness. Jelani sat next to me in the tracker, his head down. Grandma, I feel so guilty, he started. Later, I said. The main thing is, you're with me. I started the car and drove home, with a procession of police cars carrying Naima and Jenkins stretching out in the rearview mirror. I honestly thought then that the worst was over, but within 24 hours I understood. The war had only just begun. I returned home around sunrise, as if I'd been through a whole war, not just a night. The house was quiet. The furnace had cooled down. The lamp above the table was dimly lit, as if it too was exhausted from the events. Jelani sat on a stool by the window, his face buried in his hands. Akono arrived half an hour later, ruffled, pale. He'd rushed over so fast he hadn't even taken off his jacket. Mom, he choked out. Malik called me. He said they took you. That Naima. That all of this. They took her, I said. And not just her. He slumped onto a chair. I can't believe it. I lived with that woman for 20 years. How could I not see? I brushed it off. The important thing is, we're alive. You, me, Jelani, that's a lot. I even allowed myself to think, well, the worst is behind us. As usual, I was wrong too soon. Malik arrived at noon, quietly, not in uniform, wearing his old parka. He sat at the table, cupping his mug of coffee with his hands. Zora, he began directly, without preamble. Our guys quickly checked the flash drive. What opens is good stuff. Correspondence between Naima and Renata, hints of forged documents, conversations about removing obstacles after the paperwork is finalized. There are recordings where your deed is discussed as a done deal. There are mentions of our guys. This hits Jenkins hard. But, I asked, because I saw the but in his eyes. But the main folder is encrypted. He set down the mug. The encryption is serious. Not a kid's password, not a birthday. Our IT specialists were honest. It's not a one-day job. It could take months. Maybe they won't crack it at all. I was silent. Is what we have not enough? For fraud, forgery of powers of attorney, and abuse of office, more than enough, he said. For murder, it's circumstantial for now. Naima is denying everything. She had already claimed that Renata was blackmailing her, that she was afraid and looking for help. Her lawyers are sharp. They're pushing the line that she's the victim. And Jenkins? He openly threatened me. Jenkins is already singing, Malik smiled wearily. He sold out Renata and Naima over the bogus deed and the bribes, but he's dodging the murder charge. I was only responsible for the papers. I didn't know about the rest. He's stalling. There's a chance to pressure him, but again, we need more than just your phone and my recordings. I looked at him. Are you saying she'll get away with it? I'm saying, he answered seriously, that it's too early to relax. And second, the court decided on her bail today. Her people already posted the bond. Naima will be free in a couple of hours. Under supervision, but free. A cold feeling spread through my hands. She threatened me, I reminded him. I filed for protection, he said. We'll put a patrol car at the turnoff to your house. A restraining order too, but you understand that someone with those connections and that kind of money likes to play the long game. As soon as he left, the phone rang again. Unknown city number. Ms. Zora, a cold female voice said. This is attorney Tiana Vance. I represent the interests of Naima Famasi. I'm listening, I said. I'm informing you that my client will be released shortly. She considers all accusations unfounded. She was a victim of manipulation by the deceased Moreau and unscrupulous employees. The voice didn't waver. Furthermore, we are preparing a civil lawsuit against you for slander, defamation, and causing emotional distress. The claim is for $30 million. You've lost your mind, I said calmly. Let them sue. The court will sort it out. It will sort it out, she readily agreed. And what's more, a petition has already been filed with the court to review your mental competency. Due to your age, health status, and unusual behavior over the past few days, we are petitioning for a medical evaluation and the appointment of a temporary guardian. Naima Famasi is being considered as the closest relative, who already holds power of attorney to manage your affairs. What power of attorney? I asked. A general one, signed by you 3 months ago, she said, with slight emphasis. Notarized. I didn't sign anything like that. Your signature is on the document, the lawyer said coldly. The rest is a matter for the experts. Prepare yourself, Ms. Zora. You'll be contacted. Have a good day. She disconnected. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, listening to the silence, and understood. Naima wasn't just after the land. She had decided to erase me as a person, declare me incompetent, take guardianship, and sell everything legally. Mom, Okono looked out from the room. What happened? They're going on the offensive, I said. They're filing a lawsuit and trying to have me declared mentally incompetent. Jelani looked up. How? Why? Because I'm still alive, I answered. That's the biggest obstacle to them right now. As if in confirmation, an hour later, a short message arrived from an unknown number. Stop. Sign everything over voluntarily. Forget about the recordings and the flash drive. You'll live out your days peacefully in the house. Go any further and you'll lose everything, including those you love. 24 hours. I showed the text message to Okono and Jelani. They both turned pale. This is outright intimidation, Okono whispered. We need to go to Malik immediately. We have to go, Jelani agreed. This isn't a game anymore. We will go, I agreed, but not with shouting. I sat down at the table, poured myself some coffee, took a sip, and looked out the window at our shed, the garden, and the snow-covered strawberry patch. Naima was seriously banking on me getting scared and signing whatever she wanted, that I'd be more afraid of the evaluations in court than losing my home. Grandma, Jelani said quietly, what if she really did clean everything up? What if she has access to those encrypted files from Renata? What if the flash drive we have is empty? He had voiced what I'd been thinking all morning. If Naima has her own IT experts, if she managed to retrieve the real storage device from the recovered evidence, if what we have is just a decoy, then, I said, we find another way, not just the flash drive. What way? Okono sat opposite me. Mom, she has the best lawyers. They'll bury us. You see how fast they're moving. I looked at my son, then my grandson. We stopped playing by her rules, I said. She's used to old people being silent, trusting the papers, and being afraid of offices. I won't be silent. What are you going to do? Jelani asked. I set down the cup. For starters, I answered, I'm going to remember everything Renata might have hidden outside of a computer. I didn't know where to look yet, but I understood one thing. If Naima gave us exactly 24 hours to capitulate, there was a location, a document, a truth she was still afraid of, and we had to find that place before her people got there first. I don't like being cornered, especially at my age. When you've lived over 60 years, buried loved ones, built things, survived the financial crisis, debt, and illness, the last thing you want is to hear that you're no longer competent. The three of us sat in the kitchen. The coffee was getting cold, the clock ticked, and the patrol car stood at the bend like a reminder. You're no longer just a grandma with a garden. You're a player in someone else's game. This is what we'll do, I said. Naima thinks she has everything under control. The documents, the lawyers, the evaluations. But there's one thing people like her always underestimate. What? Jelani asked. The trail, I answered. It always leaves marks, especially where people have been gorging themselves for a long time. Jelani pulled his laptop toward him. His fingers were trembling but working fast. What do I look for? He asked. Summit, I said. Her company. Summit Real Estate or Summit Invest, whatever she called it. I reached for the stack of glossy brochures she had once pushed on me. Here, Summit Agency, Individual Transaction Support, Assistance for Elderly Homeowners During Relocation. Sounds beautiful. I'll search open databases, Jelani said. Transactions in the county over the last couple of years, especially with lots and houses where the owners were elderly. While he typed, Okono paced from the window to the door like an animal in a cage. Mom, he couldn't hold it in. I'm such a fool. So many years by her side and I saw nothing. She presented it all as care to me. It'll be easier for Mom. We'll sign it over to us and we'll help. And all along, stop, I said calmly. This isn't the time to chew yourself out. You're alive and standing right here. That's great. Now help. Stop whining. He fell silent, sat down, and locked his hands together. About 20 minutes later, Jelani looked up. Found something, he said quietly. 11 transactions in the last 18 months, mostly houses and lots around the county seat, and in the neighboring county. Almost all the sellers were elderly, 70 and up. And what? I asked. And this, he said, staring at the screen. At least 4 of them died within 6 months of the sale. 2 car accidents, 1 fall down the stairs, 1 heart attack. The silence became heavier. Okono gasped. It can't be. It can be, I said. To Naima, death is just a tool. The papers are clean, the doctors wrote what they wrote, the children are busy, the neighbors don't care. It's only a coincidence so far, Jelani tried to remain rational. But it's too big of a coincidence. We need to tell Malik, Okono said, already reaching for his phone. We will, I nodded. But first, let's gather it into a single folder. Not a feeling, but a list. Jelani printed the tables and stapled them to Naima's brochures. I called Malik. Zora, I'm in interrogations. Make it quick, he answered wearily. It won't be quick, I said. You don't just have my house, you have a pattern. 11 elderly people, Summit, similar deaths. Jelani found everything. I'm not making this up. He was silent. Email it to the department inbox, he said. And here's another thing. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. is the hearing about your competency. Naima and her lawyers rushed it. Judge Marcus Hill. Remember him? Not personally. I know the name. A fair man, but he'll go by the book, based on the papers. I'll try to get you a quick meeting with him before the hearing. 10 to 15 minutes, no guarantees. Get it, I said. I'll handle the rest. What are you planning now? He asked. It's legal, Malik, I answered. For now. An hour later, he called back. He'll see you at 1 o'clock, he said. In his chambers. Officially. Zora, don't have a meltdown or put on a show. Calmly, stick to the facts. I'm too old for meltdowns, I said. Thank you. While we were talking, Jelani hadn't stopped working. Grandma, there's one more thing, he said. I dug deeper into Summit and its associated firms. I found the final beneficiary. Naima, yes, but not alone. Of course, I sighed. She needed a brain and a cover. Jelani turned the screen toward me. The co-owner, Preston Minton, attorney. I recognized the name before I even finished reading it. Our family lawyer, Okono said dully, clenching his fists. The one who was so concerned about Mom at the precinct today. He's been with them from the beginning, Jelani said quietly. His firm handled almost all of Summit's big deals. He filed the paperwork, consulted, covered up, and today he came not to defend you, but to see what you would say. I felt a strange sense of calm. Not surprise, but confirmation. Perfect, I said. Now we know both their faces. We had just started discussing how to organize everything in a folder for the judge when the phone rang again. Unknown number. I put it on speakerphone. I'm listening, Zora, a soft, overly controlled voice said. It's Naima. You're fast, I said. The handcuffs haven't even cooled off yet. She chuckled. Don't worry, they were only on briefly. The investigation is mistaken. The court will sort it out. I'm calling you human to offer a final chance. That's interesting, I said. Go on. Tomorrow is the hearing about your competency, she began smoothly. We have the gift deed, the power of attorney, doctor's assessments, and witness statements about your unstable behavior. She emphasized the word. My lawyers are confident the court will rule in my favor, which means I become your legal representative. And then, well, you understand. You'll sell the house, the land, everything you can, I prompted, and send me to a facility for observation. I will ensure you receive dignified care, she said coldly. But at this stage, I propose peace. You withdraw all claims, stop saying unnecessary things. You confirm in court that you signed the papers voluntarily, but that you are tired of the scandal. I'll arrange a room for you in a good assisted living facility. You live peacefully. Jelani can go to school, and everyone is safe. And if not? I asked. Her voice hardened. Then you lose. You are declared incompetent. I become the guardian. The house is sold legally, and you will no longer have the right to speak. Not in court, not at home. The kitchen was so silent, you could hear Jelani grit his teeth. Naima, I said calmly. One question, if I may. Of course. Did Renata scream when she died? A pause. I don't know what you're talking about, she said coldly. I know about Summit, I continued. About the 11 transactions, about the old people who suddenly died, about Jenkins, about Minton. Do you really think you're the first person who decided to take the land from the elderly and turn it into a housing development? Prove it, she snapped. You have nothing. The flash drive. Hilarious. It's been empty for a long time. Everything that could harm me was deleted. The people who handled it know how to work. I looked at Jelani. He clenched his fists even tighter. So, our flash drive might indeed have been incomplete. If you're so confident, I said, why are you calling? Just watch me get declared incompetent. Another short pause. I'm giving you a chance to get out of the game, Naima said, dropping the pretense. Because I respect Okono. Once. Think about it until tomorrow. And some advice, don't try blackmail. You're not at the right age or with the right experience. And you underestimate that 63 isn't kindergarten, I said. See you tomorrow, Naima. I disconnected. Okono sat there, pale. Mom, she really can. She can, I nodded, if we sit around and wait. But you just laid out the whole Summit scheme to her, Jelani whispered. If her reach is long, she'll start covering her tracks faster. That's the point, I replied. Let her jump. When a predator gets nervous, it makes mistakes. Grandma, Jelani leaned closer. Did you really say something about extra copies? That Renata gave me something else? No, I said. But Naima doesn't know that now. And if Renata really had a backup stash, Naima will rush to find it. And us? Okono asked. I thought for a moment. Let's start with Renata, I said. She didn't just fall from the sky. Before she was Moreau, she was Verena Harrington. I nodded toward the printouts. The granddaughter of Marguerite Harrington, the one whose homestead in the Red Pines area burned down after a sale. Jelani was already typing. Got it, he said after a minute. Verena Harrington, then a name change, a move. Marguerite Harrington left her the land, then a refusal of inheritance, then a legal dispute. Then everything drifted to Summit's entities. The homestead has been tied up in a dispute for 6 years. A legal swamp, I said. Can't touch it, can't sell it, but outsiders won't go near it either. If Renata wanted to hide something for a long time, Jelani said quietly, you couldn't find a better place. I stood up. Get ready, I said. We're going to Red Pines now. Okono jumped up. Mom, it's already getting dark. The roads. Naima has exactly 24 hours to think about it, I interrupted him. Do you think her people will sit around until morning? If she believes there's another storage device, she'll send someone there. I want to be first. We need to warn Malik, Jelani said. Just a quick note. We will warn him, I nodded, but we're leaving now. I picked up the phone and quickly dialed Malik. We're going to Red Pines, to the old Harrington homestead. There's reason to believe Renata's stash is there. If you don't hear from me in 3 hours, mobilize everyone. He answered immediately. Are you crazy? I'm sending a patrol car after you. No heroics. No one's being a hero, I muttered. I just don't want to wait until I'm a vegetable. 20 minutes later, we were speeding down the dark highway. I was driving the old tracker. Next to me, Jelani had the laptop on his knees. In the back, Akono was silently gritting his teeth. In the distance, at a respectful distance, the patrol car kept pace. The sky was overcast, and snow began to fall in fine dust. Headlights picked out snowdrifts, black tree trunks, and sparse road signs. Grandma, Jelani said quietly, what if there's nothing there? Then we'll think of something else, I said. But I've lived too long to believe in such coincidences. Renata wasn't stupid. She knew Naima would eventually betray her and left a thread for someone. For who? Akono asked. For whoever survives, I answered. We'll see if we survived. After an hour and a half, the dark shell of a burned house and the silhouette of an old shed appeared against the white field. I cut the engine. The wind whipped the snow across the ground. The air was damp and biting. The patrol car stopped a little distance away. Well, I said, opening the door, let's go find the thing that made one woman a killer, another a corpse, and made them decide to label me as crazy. And only as we got closer to the shed did I notice fresh tire tracks on the roadside, not from our car and not from the patrol car. Someone had already been here before us, or was following close behind. The shed in Red Pines looked like it was held up by a wing and a prayer. The Harrington house had burned down to the brick, a black shell, empty window sockets. But the shed was leaning, gray. Planks were missing in places. The roof sagged, but it stood, like a memory no one needs except for those who know what's hidden inside it. We went in. It smelled of old hay, dust, and dampness. The flashlight beam swept across empty stalls, rusty tools, and cobwebs. Where would you hide your last words, Renata? I murmured. Jelani shone the light on the walls. Akono hovered closer to the door, looking around. Grandma, everything is rotten in here, he whispered. Mice and squatters could have gotten to it. Be quiet, I said. Don't interrupt my listening. I walked along the stalls, running my fingers over the wood. And suddenly I saw it, carved with a knife on one partition, Starlight. For a second, I didn't understand. Then Jelani flew over, examining the inscription in the flashlight beam. That's her horse, he said. The article had a picture, Renata as a child on a gray horse named Starlight. So this was her stall. I crouched down, touching the board at the bottom. One plank moved, as if it hadn't been nailed all the way down. Hold the light, I said. I pulled at the edge. The board came away. Behind it, a narrow opening, and in it, a tightly wrapped plastic bundle. My heart lurched. I carefully pulled it out. Inside the plastic was a small metal box, and inside that, a flash drive and a folded piece of paper. Jelani unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky, angry. If you are reading this, I have either completely messed up or I am dead. Naima Famasi destroyed my grandmother and forced me to help her. I collected everything so that one day I could sink her. Here are the originals, recordings, deeds, money transfers, the scheme of payments, the real names. The password is Starlight9997. Don't believe any document she presents. Use this, or she will continue. Signed, Verena Harrington. Jelani stared at the flash drive as if it were a hand grenade. This is it, he whispered. It's all here. If it's real, it's real, I said. It has pain and anger in it. That's not something you fake for a game. The sound of an engine drifted in from outside. Not just one, several. We exchanged glances. "Back," I said quietly. "Into the shadows." We retreated to the back of the shed. Through the cracks in the planks, we could see 3 cars pulling into the yard. One was Naima's familiar white Lexus, the second, a black sedan, the third, a van. The headlights went out, doors slammed. The wind carried their voices. I managed to shove the flash drive into my inner pocket and snap the small box shut. Naima appeared in the doorway of the shed. The mask of concern was gone. Her face was hard, her eyes cold. Next to her was Preston Minton, as neat as if he were in his office, but without his smile. Behind them were 2 broad-shouldered men. I'd only seen guys like them in the news, not hunters, not farmers. "Mrs. Zora," Naima's voice cut through the cold air. "You're getting ahead of yourself. This is private property. You are currently engaged in theft and trespassing." I stepped forward. No sense in hiding now. "This is the Harrington family property," I said. "Your private property is still tied up in court, and what are you doing here?" "I am the executor of the will," she answered clearly. "Everything is legal, and this is the second time you've broken into a place you weren't invited to, and the second time you've provoked a dangerous situation. That looks very bad for your reputation before tomorrow's hearing." Minton nodded, as if confirming a legal reference. "Let's put it this way," he said softly, in his familiar lawyer's voice. "You have a certain storage device. We offer to resolve this civilly. You hand over everything you found and stop this charade. In return, we guarantee you a peaceful life." "A peaceful life," I scoffed, "in a locked ward." "Don't exaggerate," he said wearily. "You are not in a position to negotiate." Jelani stepped forward, but I held him back with my hand. "What we found here," I said, "does not belong to you. These are the words of your Renata, the woman you used, and judging by how quickly you rushed out here, you are very afraid that those words will be seen by the wrong eyes." Naima smiled. "You overestimate yourself," she said. "And the flash drives. All the truly dangerous information has been under control for a long time. What you are holding is garbage, but what you are doing is a crime. I'm giving you one last chance. Hand it over, and we'll go our separate ways." The 2 broad-shouldered men took a step closer. The patrol car was not visible outside the fence. I noticed it and set the panic aside. "Just one thing," I said. "Do you still think I'm an old woman who doesn't know how to use a phone?" I pulled out my mobile, turning the screen toward them. The red bar was visible, broadcasting in progress. "I turned on the live stream as soon as you arrived," I said. "Everything you are saying is already being listened to at the precinct, at the county office, and at a couple of news desks, plus a copy on the cloud. So, if you take one step closer to me right now, it will look very good in court." The corner of Naima's mouth twitched. Minton spun around at a sound. Somewhere far away, sirens wailed. "Are you bluffing?" he hissed. "You'll check for yourselves in a couple of minutes," I replied. One of the goons stepped forward, but Naima raised her hand. "Stop." She looked at me with such hatred that anyone else's legs would have buckled. "I'm tired of her stares. You don't understand who you're messing with," she said quietly. "You are destroying a business we worked on for years. The people involved with us will not forgive you for this." "The people involved with you," I said calmly, "will soon be deciding who gets the top bunk in prison." The sirens were closer now. Several cars simultaneously burst into the yard, flashing lights, black tactical vests, shouting. "Freeze, everyone!" Malik's voice. "Don't move!" One of the officers blocked the exit. Others instantly spread out across the perimeter. Everything was executed like a movie, only colder and quieter. "Naima Fomasi," Malik said loudly, stepping forward. "You are under arrest on suspicion of organizing major fraud schemes, forgery of documents, and attempted witness intimidation. We'll add the rest as we go." "You have no right!" Minton exploded. "This is illegal. We have warrants, documents." "You can show the warrants in your cell," Malik cut him off. We have audio recordings of your threats and witness testimony. And as I see it, you drove yourselves right to the spot where one of your key witnesses from a past case died. Coincidences happen, but not this often." They snapped handcuffs on Naima. She flinched, tried to twist free, but they calmly took her arms. For a second, her gaze met mine. There was no hysteria, only cold calculation, frantically flipping through options. "This is not the end," she said quietly. "You don't understand how these things work." "I understand perfectly well," I replied. "And now those higher up than you will understand, too." Malik came up to us. "Zora, the flash drive you found here," he said, "and the note, officially, through the protocol." I took out the box and handed it to him. Jelani stood tall next to me, as if shedding some of his guilt. "There's a password on it," he said. "She wrote it herself. It's not our guess." "All the better," Malik nodded briefly. "If everything is confirmed, these aren't just the words of an elderly woman. It's a confession from the inside." The police were putting the detainees into cars. The patrol that was supposed to cover us arrived only after the fact, breathless and apologetic. Malik just waved his hand. I stood by the shed, feeling not even joy, but a heavy kind of relief, as if a huge stone had been moved, but hadn't yet fallen. "Grandma," Jelani said quietly, "we did it." I looked at Naima, who was being escorted into the car. "We'll see," I said. "For now, we just dragged her into the light." Malik turned to me, quieter now, dropping his professional tone. "You have to understand," he said. "We have a serious case in our hands now. If that flash drive really contains what you say, not only Naima and Minton will go down, so will the people who paid them. They won't just surrender." I nodded. "Malik," I said, "I've lived my whole life among people who don't just surrender. We'll handle it." He was about to respond, but one of the operatives called him over. They had already started looking at the first files. Malik walked away. I was left alone for a second, next to Jelani and Akono, amidst the snow and old planks, and I thought, maybe now, this is truly a turning point. The phone in my pocket vibrated briefly, a text message from an unknown number. "Don't celebrate too soon. You've opened something that was better left untouched. Now you all owe us." I looked at the screen, at the flickering letters, and understood that the loudest part of this story was still ahead. I showed the text message to Malik immediately. No heroics. He just frowned. "The chain goes higher than we thought then," he said, putting the phone in his pocket. "The number is clearly bogus, but the fact is, Zora, this isn't just about your house anymore." Somehow I felt calmer. When everything is called what it is, it's easier to breathe. The paper war began next, but it wasn't against me. Experts cracked the flash drive from the shed overnight. The password worked. I only saw a fraction of what Renata had managed to collect. Recordings of conversations with Naima and Minton, numbers, schemes, lists of people who received payoffs, scans of bogus powers of attorney with forged signatures, financial transactions through shell companies, and the main evidence, a video. In one of the files, Renata had recorded Naima with a hidden camera. She was calmly talking about how the elderly would die soon anyway, how the land shouldn't be wasted on those who no longer understand what they own. It also contained details about Marguerite Harrington's story, the fire, and hints about a solved problem through a contact inspector. Yes, Renata herself was part of the scheme, but she had also left a trail of breadcrumbs, so that one day, those same crumbs would flood everyone. The county investigation unit officially took over. People in suits, tactical teams, and security experts rotated through my house. Naima, Minton, Jenkins, and a couple of other names were charged with new felonies. Bail was no longer an option. The calls from Naima's lawyers became less frequent and more cautious, and then ceased entirely. The case about my mental competency, which Naima had so vigorously launched, slammed shut. The day after we returned from Red Pines, Judge Hill himself called. His voice was dry, official. "Mrs. Zora, I have reviewed the new materials," he said. "The petition for your incompetency has been withdrawn by the petitioner's representatives. Given the clear signs of abuse, I see no grounds for such measures from my side." In plain language, Naima tried to brand me as crazy, and in the end, she was the one facing criminal charges. I thanked him without bowing low. "Just thank you for looking at the facts, not the age." But that didn't mean my heart was light. Okono filed for divorce himself, without any prompting from me. We sat at the same kitchen table where Naima had recently spread her beneficial proposals. Okono held the papers in his hands. "Mom, I signed all of this," he said. "Not the bogus ones, but the real divorce papers. I can't be near her anymore, not after what came out." He spoke calmly, but his hands were shaking. "I lived with a person for 20 years who was killing old people for land," he whispered. "I brought her into your house, seated her at your table, allowed her to push you towards these deals, and I stayed silent." "You didn't know," I said. "I should have," he insisted. "You felt it, and I said you were being dramatic. I chose her, not you." I sighed. "Okono, everyone has their foolishness. You've already paid for yours. Now live in a way that your son can rely on you. Stop apologizing. Start fixing." He nodded. His eyes were moist, but for the first time in a long time, they held a living resolve, not resignation. Jelani was slower to recover. He moved in with me almost immediately. He temporarily dropped out of college and quit his job. During the day, he helped with chores. In the evening, he sat staring into space. One day, while we were sorting through the old shed, he broke down. "Grandma, I still feel like an idiot." "Why?" I asked. "I loved her," he said quietly. "Renata, the person who turned out not to exist. I believed every word. I gave her the documents, showed her your papers. I handed them everything myself. If I hadn't done that, she wouldn't have been so fast." "Stop," I said, sitting down next to him. "You were a boy, and you were facing a trained predator. You chose to trust. She chose to exploit. That is her crime, not yours. But without me, they wouldn't have had half the information." "But you turned back later," I reminded him. "You saw her whispering with Naima. You became suspicious. You got the flash drive. You called me at 5 a.m. I have a house and a life right now because you didn't stay silent then." He was silent for a long time. "Sometimes I miss her," he confessed. "Not the real one, but the one she pretended to be." "That's normal," I replied. "You can grieve for an illusion. Just don't stay there for too long." He nodded, burying his face in my shoulder like he did as a child. I stroked his head and thought that some wounds are healed not by the court, but by time. I persuaded him to see a counselor at the county seat. Not because he was broken, but because too much had been piled on him. He resisted at first, but then he went. He came back quiet, but his gaze was a little clearer. The investigation widened. On the news, they called it the largest real estate fraud and elderly murder scheme in the region in recent years. I turned it off without listening further. I already knew the names. Besides Naima, Minton, and Jenkins, they brought in 2 more officials, 1 registrar, 1 appraiser, and a couple of small, dummy directors. Just like in that text message, "Now you all owe us." They weren't referring to me, but to those at the top of the pyramid. I was treated as a key witness. On one hand, respectfully. On the other, I knew I was now a thorn in many people's sides, simply because I survived and didn't shut up. One of the most difficult encounters happened at the county court during a hearing for reparations, as they called it, for the victims' families. A woman in her 50s approached me, wearing a severe jacket, but with kind eyes. "Ms. Zora?" she asked. "Yes," I nodded. "I'm Katrina," she said, "Marguerite Harrington's niece, Verena's aunt." I sighed. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said honestly. "For both of them." Katrina nodded. "Thank you," she replied. "I just wanted to say, I'm glad you weren't afraid. My mother, Marguerite, she wouldn't have believed anyone then, and me." She shrugged. We all believed the pretty words, just like you. Only you brought everything to light. At least some of our people will find peace." She paused, then added, "And about Verena, she wasn't born a monster. I'm telling you that as someone close to her. She was broken, but what she did afterward, that was her choice. Your truth is what's needed now." We stood in silence, two strangers connected by a single chain of other people's sins. Spring crept in unnoticed. The snow melted, the ground dried, and I stubbornly started working in the garden beds. I deliberately planted a new strawberry patch, twice the size of the old one. "Not afraid?" Jelani smirked. "Too much symbolism." "We're survivors," I answered. "We have the right to our symbols." He smiled a little, genuinely. Malik started visiting more often. Sometimes on official business, sometimes just casually with pies from his wife. One evening we were sitting on the porch. He was drinking coffee, looking out at the field. "I have news," he said. "Let's hear it," I nodded. I was used to his news being either bad or too important to postpone. "Naima," he started, "has cut a deal. She's giving testimony, selling out everyone she worked with. Minton, the officials, the police. In exchange, she's asking for a reduced sentence. She's facing life anyway, but she hopes to bargain for some humane conditions." "And what?" I asked. "And some of the people she's naming are still free," he said. "They're bigger players. Their connections go beyond our county, and they are very unhappy that one elderly woman and her grandson upended their entire operation. It's nice to be a legend," I smirked. He didn't smile. "Zora, I'm serious," he said. "While the investigation and the trial are ongoing, you and Jelani are under protection. No more solo heroics. Let us do our jobs." "You think they'll try something?" I asked calmly. "I hope not," he answered honestly. "But the text message you received wasn't written from a jail cell or a rural payphone. And it wasn't Naima. It's someone higher up. People like that have a simple logic. Eliminate the source of the problem." The wind rustled the old porch planks. In the distance, a patrol car's headlights swept by. I took a sip of my coffee. "So while Naima is selling everyone out, Jelani and I are sitting ducks in the yard," I summarized. "Appealing." "I won't let anyone hurt you," Malik said firmly. "But you have to understand, the stakes have been raised." I nodded. "I understand." He left, leaving behind silence and the blinking light of the patrol car at the bend. Jelani came out onto the porch, sat next to me, covered himself with his jacket. "What did he say?" he asked. "That we're officially getting in someone's way now," I replied. "And we're going to be guarded." "Doesn't sound very reassuring." "At least it's honest," I said. "So we live. If we're bothering someone this much, it means it wasn't for nothing." He smirked, but his eyes were tense. In the twilight, our house looked like a small island of light in the darkness. The field around us was open. The road, easily visible. The patrol car, just one vehicle. And somewhere out there in the darkness were people whose names I didn't yet know, but who were very upset that one old woman wasn't afraid to lift her head. I didn't turn off the lights for a long time that night. I listened to the floorboards creak, the wind rustle outside the window, and the occasional cars passing on the highway, and I caught myself thinking we had already survived the worst, or maybe the main challenge was still ahead. It all ended not with fireworks or applause, but with papers, waiting in hallways, endless signatures, and weariness in my bones. 6 months after the mill in Red Pines, Naima was convicted. No pretty legal jargon. Murder, conspiracy, major fraud, forgery, witness intimidation, organized crime. Life sentence. Not because she was a villain from a TV show, but because the evidence was too plentiful and too varied. The flash drives, the recordings, the money, the people she so confidently considered her own. Once they realized she couldn't be saved, everyone started talking for themselves. Minton received a substantial sentence, a serious one, without any chance of probation. Jenkins and a couple of other corrupt officers also went to prison. Some officials managed to wriggle free. A few avoided real time due to health reasons. That's life. Perfectly just endings don't happen. In the verdict, I was listed boringly, victim and witness. The decision regarding the house was separate. All the forged deeds, powers of attorney, and wills were declared invalid. The title registration was returned to my name. No gifts, no conditions. Just as it should have been from the start. Summit was dismantled, the shell companies were seized, and the assets were liquidated. The families of the deceased were paid compensation. Small amounts, laughable when weighed against lost lives, but something. People left the courthouse not happy, but with the feeling that their parents were officially no longer considered fools who had only themselves to blame. Okono finalized the divorce quietly. He didn't fight, didn't scream, didn't seek revenge. He just exited the marriage as he should have years ago. He moved closer to me, got a simpler office job. Not a hero, not a avenger, just an ordinary man in his 50s who once trusted the wrong person too much. Now he comes over on weekends, helps with chores, sometimes just sits silently on the porch, sometimes he apologizes. I tell him the same thing every time. Live a good life. That will be his apology. Naima was shown on TV recently, a short shot from the courthouse. I recognized her only by her eyes. Everything else seemed erased. I didn't turn off the TV or spit at the screen. I just finished my coffee. I didn't feel any pleasure from her punishment. It was too late for joy. They had managed to do too much before this. Jelani quietly got back on his feet. He saw the counselor, talked to his buddies at the college, and then came to me. Grandma, I want to go back to school, but not as the idiot who fell into that mess. I want to go back as someone who knows what documents are and where they can lead people. I'm going to study law part-time. Work here, study there. I just shrugged. The main thing is, don't punish yourself. You'll figure out the rest. He registered at his father's place, but lived mainly with me. During the day, he studied and helped with the chores. In the evening, he sat at his laptop, no longer with a scammer's flash drives, but with the criminal code. Sometimes he complained about how many loopholes there were. I just smirked. It's good that you can see them in advance now. He didn't bring up Renata in conversation, but I know that it still hurts inside, and that's normal. A person who doesn't feel anything is a walking stone. Those scare me more. Things are simple for me. Formally, I'm under protection. A patrol car parks at the bend sometimes. One of the detectives drops by for coffee on official business. Malik calls asking, "Is anyone bothering you?" At first, I received a few strange messages, hints, veiled threats. Then it quieted down or moved to other neighborhoods. I used to look over my shoulder, yes, and listen to noises at night, but then I got tired. To be honest, after 63, life is no longer perceived as a fragile china set. I don't wish death on anyone, but living in constant fear isn't my style either. The farm survived, the garden, the old house, the shed, everything is in place. Only I've become more attentive to the paperwork. I go to the county center myself, glasses on the tip of my nose, reading every line. If anyone rushes me, "Oh, it's just formalities," I smile and say, "Then you can wait." I tell my neighbors the story without any sensationalism, just the facts. Don't sign anything in a rush. Don't be shy about asking questions. Take someone you truly trust with you. They listen in different ways. Some nod, some wave it off. That's their right. I've given my warning. In the spring, I planted strawberries again. This time the rows were straight and neat. Jelani helped. We didn't have a competition to see who could eat the most, like when he was a child. We're too old for that. But when the first berries ripened, we sat on the porch, washed a few in a bowl, and ate them in silence. "They're good," he said. "And they shouldn't be scary," I replied. "The berries aren't to blame for anything." We laughed, not loudly, just human to human. People sometimes ask me about the moral of the story. A young, polished detective once came by and asked, "Mrs. Zora, why do you think you didn't break? Everyone around you was either silent or believed the lies, but you stood your ground." I thought about it and answered honestly, "Because I have something to lose, and I know the value of what I've worked for my whole life. A home is made not of brick, but of people and memory. And because too many times in my life people have assumed I was stupider than I am, I got tired of it. It's not about being a hero, it's about the habit of fighting for what's mine. I didn't become an internet celebrity after all this. I didn't run for office. I didn't start a foundation. I live quietly. I wake up early, light the furnace, grumble about prices, make jam, and go to the county seat on a schedule I know without looking at a clock. The only difference is that now when someone starts talking to me with that condescending tone, "Oh, at your age," I look them calmly in the eye. And if I see even a shadow of Naima's tactics there, I very politely send them on their way. I'm not afraid of loneliness. Elijah has been gone a long time. Friends have either moved away or passed on. I have a couple of neighbors left, my son, my grandson, and my home. A home where the walls remember me young, not just the woman I am today. Sometimes in the evening, I go out onto the porch, sit down, and listen. Silence, the road, a dog barking somewhere, a train. It's enough for me. Not because everything is perfect. It's not. Naima isn't the only one of her kind, and she won't be the last. Not everyone will go to jail. Not everyone will be reimbursed. Some will still walk away with other people's homes in their pockets and a clean record. But I kept my patch of earth. I fought my battle. I can't fight everyone else's battles for them. I'm too old for that, and it's not my obligation. If I had to summarize, my conclusion is one thing. At our age, it's very convenient for people to think of us as soft targets. But many of us have skin tougher than your armor. We've survived more than you've had time to dream up. And if you corner us, we know how to do more than just cry. We know how to count, how to remember, and how to speak up. I simply didn't stay silent that one time. The rest was handled by those whose job it is. That summer, the strawberries ripened profusely. Jelani came back after finals. Akono arrived with a bag of groceries. We sat at the table, the three of us, eating berries with sugar. No one made toasts to justice or victory. Akono just said quietly, "Mom, thank you for being you." I shrugged. "I just kept you from being homeless," I replied. "I live my life the way I live it. And that, perhaps, is my new beginning. No movie-style happy ending, just the life they tried to take, and I held on to. And that is enough. Did you like the story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.